Anger, to me, anger, for whatever reason, has always, I believe, to be like a cancer. That's what I sort of equate it to, I guess, in the sense that it's like if you don't not feed the anger, but if you don't release the anger, it turns into a cancer and just like eats away at everything inside of you. Like it like eats at all of your emotions. I just feel like it slowly starts to eat away at your brain, and then just like a cancer does, but it creeps in just like cancer does, slowly manifesting. And then, like, for me, the more I feel anger, the more uncomfortable it makes me because I don't like expressing anger. That feels that feels even more uncomfortable than the feeling of anger is expressing it. But when I think back to like when I started waking up to all of my physical ailments and realizing that on many levels I sort of manifested them myself or helped them to manifest faster. When I break it down, it goes back to anger. Like I was actually wicked angry at that time and I didn't even realize it. Like I was sad, but I was angry and I never expressed the anger. So it's like my body just like held on to it and held on to it until it literally physically manifested disease. Because then when I started becoming aware of my thoughts, I was like, holy shit, I have like very toxic thoughts. What I would say are toxic. If I were to label the thoughts at that time that I was becoming aware of, they were toxic. They were angry. And it was like the more I tried to push them away or falsely accept them, it was like the angrier and more anxious it made me. And then my body just kept trapping that. And for me, I believe that's a lot of what manifested my physical ailments. I do believe there's other things that I allowed myself to absorb
Yeah.
from external, like other energies that maybe weren't mine to begin with, that also helped to manifest it. But when I really, and I say a lot of it was my own stuff, and maybe they weren't initially my own thoughts either, but it's like when I started becoming aware of my thoughts, already I started to feel better, like in my body. Like as I was starting to change them gradually over time, I could already start to feel like the proof that they were negatively impacting me and like how negatively they were impacting me more than just like not wanting to be in your own head. So then you just distract yourself with a whole bunch of vices. But it was like, holy shit, like these thoughts are literally making me ill, like having these thoughts. But then the more I'm trying to push them away, I'm actually really just keeping the energy of the thoughts inside of me, but pretending like they're not there, which was just like perpetuating the disease even more.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how most of us create whatever disease it is that our bodies end up having. It's like, and it's not just anger, but for me, I relate it to anger because when I go back to really like reflect on that time and like when I think about the conversations I had, how I talked about people, how I like sort of viewed just the world, it was like, it was cynical, it was angry, it was sad, it was like depression, like hardcore depression that I didn't even recognize. That's like the fucked up part is that there was this again, this like false accepting of where it was at and pretending like I was okay. And I didn't by like the more I pretended, the more it like convinced myself that I was, but like really the energy inside of me was depressing energy. It was draining energy. It was low vibrational energy.
Yeah.
And then I was just seeping that out to like everything around me.
Do you feel like that was since you were like since birth, like with being adopted, or do you feel like that happened later? Because like when did you actually start like feeling all the pains in your body? Do you know?
Um the pains didn't start till I was in my like late 20s, mid to late 20s when I started these pains started creeping up, and then it just like it seemed like it manifested quickly after that into other physical symptoms. And um but when I think back to the energy of anger, because that's what I relate a lot of my disease to, I'm like thinking back to when I like I'm trying to remember the earliest age, I guess, that I felt that emotion, like that angry emotion.
Yeah.
Because as you're asking me that, it's like, wow, where did that? And like it was young. Like I know I was young when I first felt anger. Um, and it was towards my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my dad was a very angry person, like my whole childhood too. So it was like, and I'm not blaming my anger on him.
No.
Like he and I, as you know, have
Yeah. Reconciled and yeah.
mended so much, but it's like I recognize the mirror in both of us. And when did I really start it was towards him because it was the way he communicated with me because he was angry. So it was like it made me angry. And then as a teenager, I was an angry teenager. That I know. Like I remember from like 13 just being like an angry teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I boys were a distraction for me, right? But there was also a part of me that just like I ever since I was little too, I wanted to be a tomboy. Like it's like I wanted to be a boy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, to protect myself, perhaps, in the way that my angriness thought I needed to. I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. But then as I like was in my teenagers and then, it was like they were my vice, actually.
Mm-hmm.
They were just a distraction.
Yeah. It's interesting because I lately, since the cancer, when how do I say it? If I'm judging myself or I'm feeling someone else's energy, my mom or somebody else, right? And I'm like, what the fuck? I feel my stomach start to burn where the cancer was. And I'm like, oh. And I was like, oh, I love you. I love you. But it's a gift, right? But it's a quick reminder like I'm angry about something I can't control. This thing's happening again and again. Like when the fuck is enough? And I was judging things and then I was getting angry like you said. And it's just interesting because I never thought of cancer as anger, but at the same time I guess I have because growing up too, like I was angry. People didn't know I was angry.
Yes,
I
that's the
hid it.
thing. And look at you, like suppressed it too.
Mhm. Yeah.
People didn't, and I would say people didn't know I was angry either.
Hmm. Yeah. I felt more ashamed of things that were out of my control and which made me shame myself. And I couldn't like keep friendships because I would get angry at I would be comparing myself or my family to other people's family. And so like I couldn't keep friends. And then like when friends would be angry or like react, I remember this one person we were making these little clay pizzas and we put them in the oven and after she smashed like she we were I don't even know what the conversation was. But we were like probably 7. She smashed it over my head. And I was just like and I was angry and she was angry and like I know that it wasn't me and I'm aware of that and I knew that then but I was like what the fuck like another person like just it was like I felt like I couldn't be loved, like no matter what friendship I was in I always felt not good enough, but it wasn't because they made me not, it was I was feeling that and I was like letting people project things onto me because I thought that that's what life was. So I grew up angry and ashamed and judging myself, but not telling people. So then when I started really taking care of people like through nursing, I was getting fucking sick. Like my stomach, I was at ulcers, like all this stuff was happening. And it's just incredible. Like the power of emotions that we suppress and how it manifests in our body. Like I don't think I struggle saying this to some people when it comes to cancer because I don't think that we ask for cancer, right? It's not, we're not like, come on, cancer, like, let's fucking take over my whole body. But I do think it's highly, highly energetic related. And I remember telling clients, telling patients that, and they're like, I've been healthy my entire life, like blah, blah, blah. And then I'll see the way they're acting on the phone with somebody, or like I'll see the family dynamics, and there's a lot of like in it. And it's not even around health. It's just, and I'm like, ooh, it's like, and the person gets sicker and sicker. But I struggle with saying that to people because there's babies and kids born with cancer, right? And that's another phenomenon for another day of like generational energy being brought forward.
Mhm.
Um, but it's just fascinating how our body can heal itself, but it can also like kill itself when we're not honoring ourselves.
Yep.
Like it's mind blowing. And when my mom has something wrong with her, like if her left foot starts pulsating, I can feel it in my left foot. Even if I'm like in Arizona with you, I'll be like, oh, and I'll call her and she's like, yeah, my foot's killing me. Because we're so attached, and that's that ancestral shit. And no matter how much I release her, I can still feel her because she hasn't, like we said earlier, she hasn't released me. So we can feel the people that haven't released us, we can feel their shit too. And then that makes us angry and anxious and, because we understand it. But it's just amazing, the human body and anger. Because, like, then
Yeah,
there's
it's
inflammation too. Like,
exactly. It's like, and to me, I mean, anything that I consider a low vibrational emotion or thought or whatever, it's to me it's all still rooted in fear. Like always, it's always that fear is that really, really root cause of all of it, right? Fear is the root cause of really all trauma, how we perceive things or whatever. So it's like when it comes down to it, yeah, it's still fear, but like in my own, just sort of my own self-awakening journey, I'm always trying to like sort of pinpoint the root trigger. And when I like what caused all of my diseases, like what made me so sick, like to the point where all my joints were swollen, to the point where like I had growths on my skin, like what was causing that? Like, and it was literally my mental state, my emotional state that I was refusing to deal with. Like, I just numb it out with whatever, whether it was marijuana, whether it was binge watching TV, like whatever the vice is, if you're numbing it out, you're just numbing it out. Like you're using it as an escape. And these things just find a way to keep creeping up until you really face them. I
mm-hmm.
mean, you keep numbing it out, but it's just going to manifest more and more. And I feel like that's why too, because I spent 8 years trying to just numb shit out. Like I just wanted it gone. And being a healthcare provider, it was like uh it was an inconvenience. Like how do I take care of people if like my body is falling apart, right? So like it's an inconvenience. So like just numb the pain, like please just make it go away. But it was literally my body screaming like please just look at and feel all the things that you have been trying to run from for 30 or at that point 20 something years. Yeah.
And there's this whole like, I know we talk about food and stuff, but like people, not just medicine, but food in general, and what we put in our body and supplements, yeah, like that helps us, like if our gut's all fucked up, taking certain supplements, changing our diet, yes, that helps us, definitely. It, certain things like apple cider vinegar and whatever, right? Like helps inflammation. But that stuff keeps popping up the inflammation, everything, until you deal with the emotion and the root cause of what caused it originally. And like, I take organic CBD every day, and I upped it like with the cancer, 1,000 milligrams twice a day, and like, I take these I take ginger and garlic and like just supplements to help the inflammation inside, because we're still doing the shadow work, and we're still doing like the inner healing, but like our bodies need to adjust for the many many years where we like repress the emotions in it. So like,
Correct.
so people are like, well, I'm going to see a nutritionist. Okay, what else are you doing? Because that's going to work for a little bit, make you maybe have more energy, but there's what caused the imbalance to begin with.
The root cause.
Yeah,
Exactly.
which
Yeah.
is
And I agree with you 100%. Like, and it's the same thing in regards to like everything that's got toxins in it, right? Like,
yep.
obviously, yeah, not good for us, and that's what that's where I'm much more aware of what's in everything now. And knowing that I'm on a conscious health and wellness journey, then it's like, all right, now I know better, so I have to start choosing better. But like what I'm saying with that is that yes, there are things that I believe that are catalysts that speed up the disease process. So, like these toxins, right? The chemtrails, the this, the that, everything that's being pumped into everything. But yes, those are absolutely, I believe,
High
catalysts to
fructose syrup in ginger ale that's given to everyone in a hospital.
exactly like everything. Yes, people, everything is manipulated with bad stuff. Hate to break it to you, but it's like, and do I believe 1,000% that they are catalysts to helping speed disease process, cause disease? Yes, I do. But on the flip side to that, like what you're saying, I also believe that organic, natural remedies also help to heal because they're from nature, right? Like they are part of nature, which heals itself. But as you're saying, when it comes down to it, if you don't get down to the root cause of whatever it is, take away all those external catalysts, like you're never going to really shift and move through that energy that it keeps causing it. So it's always going to keep, like you're saying, pop up. It's going to pop up in one way, shape, or form. And that's why I think you and I are so like, to me, that's the whole holistic piece of holistic health and wellness. It's every aspect. It's the mind, the body, and the soul. Because while we're here, we have all three of those aspects. So the
Mhm.
physical body, yeah, if you're putting stuff that has toxins in it, yeah, it's gonna affect your physical health. And to the flip side, if you're taking things that are going to help to heal you, if it's something natural, I would say, definitely natural, um, absolutely it's going to help. And that's why I'm getting into, the oils and everything, because I do believe, based on where people are at too in their awareness, a lot of people still need an external kind of a solution
Mhm.
to help them get into this like sort of a mindset and then realize eventually you don't need those things. I think we'll all get to a point, those of us that are really on this conscious healing journey, I think we'll get to a point where we won't use anything external because we'll realize we don't need it. But at the same time, I do believe these things to be tools, just like how you and I use crystals. It's like they're tools that are of a higher vibration. So why wouldn't we use it to help us, right? Like, and just like there's tools on this earth plane that are a lower vibration that we can use them to learn from them. But if we unconsciously just feed into them, then they're just going to feed our
Mhm.
diseases.
I was When you were talking, I was thinking about the crystals because I was like, I know this has nothing to do with health, but when we went to go to our friend's house and do the healing, and I was like, I don't have my crystals. Oh my God. And you go, why do you need your crystals? And I was like, because I always use my crystals. And you were like, it's in you. I'm like,
I know. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, you are like the crystal dude. Like, you don't need crystals. And your whole, like, as soon as I said it, they took no convincing because you were just like, "Ah,
yeah. And it was just funny because that was your first time like doing like a session for couples, like in person, right? And
yeah.
that you didn't even like know.
Yeah,
Here
this
I
is
am.
so like, what are we doing as we're driving?
Like, I don't have my fucking crystals. And you're like, You're
I'm
fine.
like, nah, you don't need
Yeah.
them.
And then it went
But
great.
I need you, so what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah. And just like when Kevin was like, when I was afraid to go to someone's house to do the readings, right? I'm like, I don't know, like I'm used to doing it in my room, like blah blah blah. He goes, if it's really in you, like you say it is, why does it matter where you are? And I'm like, well, because I have like portals and my room's set up and it's healing. He's like, so bring some of that stuff to wherever you're going. And I'm like,
Bring your portals with you.
yeah. And he's like, what'd your guide say? Well, they said I should go. He's like, so what the fuck's the problem? I'm like, it's that tangible,
Yeah.
right? It's that uncomfortableness
Right.
and like I know it has nothing to do with health, but in the sense it does
It
because
does.
if we allow ourselves to push past those like thoughts that hinder us, or because like I could easily that night be like, sorry, we can't do the healings because I don't have my crystals,
Right.
and they would have thought that they need crystals to do healing too, right?
Right. Right.
And because we didn't even know we were doing healing that night, remember?
Nope.
She was like, "Oh, you ready to come over and do healing on us?" Me and you were like,
Uh,
"Sure."
by
And
ourselves, are we? Yeah,
yeah,
that's why she asked you. Oh, okay. Got
you know,
this.
and it's like it's those things that if we don't
Yes.
like me and you are very good at like not talking each other out of things, but having like shift our perspective or like
Yes.
but you and I are also very straight to the point with each other because we can be. Um,
Yes.
it helps us move past any fear or resistance with our conditioned thinking, right?
Right.
It's our conditioned thinking that prevents us from moving forward and also prevents us from healing because we think we
Right.
can't do something
Right.
when we
Right.
can.
And it, yes, and you used a perfect example because it's exactly what I know most people, because you and I, we tap into energy, like we are energy workers. That's what we do. So we are very well versed or experienced, I would say, in the non-physical realm, but yet we still have this conditioned mind that makes us think we need physical things to either do our work or to heal. And so knowing that and knowing where we are, then I know people that aren't as in tune to energy definitely still need something physical and tangible. So it's like, all right, well, why not make use of these wonderful tools that the earth has provided us with, like the plant medicine, the
Hmm.
crystals, like everything that has the higher vibration that's only going to serve as a positive catalyst for our healing versus taking in all the things, all the shit that has the low vibrations, which is just going to keep us in that same loop of
Shit.
fear and shit and anger.
Yeah.
Right back to the anger again.
Because our
Yeah.
anger, it's trapped in, it sits in our liver, right? Our liver does what? It detoxifies toxins. It
Yep.
helps our blood, our oxygen, it helps our digestion. We all have this, we have a biodome, whatever it's called in our gut, which controls nutrients and how we digest things. It helps everything, right? And then if our gut's out of balance, which whatever you put in your mouth, you go down, liver, pancreas, gallbladder, stomach, all that works in the same thing. Um, if one's fucked up, they're all gonna have something. But whatever we put into our mouths and we digest, if there's still all this trapped energy in there, mixed with those toxins of whatever we're like, especially our emotion when we're eating too, right? Like what we're doing,
Yep.
that all then comes up and causes thinking, like not thinking, but like brain issues and inflammation in our entire body.
Yep.
And like we're not friggin' taught that in medical school, nursing school,
Nope.
ever. It's
Nope.
like fuck
Ever.
ever, another angry year of like shit in health. Like let's figure this out. And it's just I feel like we're now like shifting paradigm or consciousness right now to like be more cognizant of our bodies,
Yep.
But it's hard for people that don't understand that to wrap their heads around like how energy is literally everything.
Yep.
And energy is a thought, energy is the food, energy is, everything.
Yep. And you know what's crazy? Like I've thought about your cancer and what I was shown when I was shown like how it manifested for you. and just listening to your experience about how like you've sort of been somebody your whole life, like out of body, like disassociate. So you weren't feeling necessarily like your own emotions, where I perceived myself to be the opposite. And I think that's why I had so much pain in my body. It was like I was always in body. And it's like I was feeling everything, but on one level, I was believing all of it was my own. I didn't realize that a lot of it wasn't. So like just like you absorbed too, other it's just weird how we both like had a different experience, but yet we did the same thing. We still allowed these absorbed energies to just like pile on top of our own shit that we weren't facing.
Mhm.
And because when you were like you were numb after we did that like energy extraction, and like then becoming aware of like what everything feels like to you, I'm like, wow, that's so wild. Like I know what all that fucking shit feels like to me because
Yeah.
I felt it for 30 something years. Like,
Yeah.
so it's just it's wild like how the two different experiences, they're parallel but they're still very unique, and but still just as powerful, like still as powerfully awakening. But it's just it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Wow. My heart's like smiling because um I literally have always lived out of my body, and I'm very good at observing. I'm very good at assessing things,
Yep.
and I'm very good at being aware of energies and like my entire life. And that's also why um I always just have a knowing of things, but I never like raise my hand in class, right? I would because I'm like I don't want people. So I would literally leave and daydream because I'm like I don't want people to think I'm stupid. But I would know the answer and then be like, why the fuck? And then I'd beat myself up.
Yep.
And but I always just left my body when I'd be uncomfortable. And then when I got older and like could drink, or when I used to smoke a lot of weed, I would I realized I was my soul, my spirit was like waking up, and it was loud, and I was like in my body, and I was like I got to do something, to like leave my body because daydreaming doesn't feel safe. I think I'm going fucking nuts now.
Yep.
And now like the observing part is so powerful for me. It's a superpower now, right?
Yep.
And now that I've learned how to embody it from the cancer, I'm like, wow. And so when you tell me, because like when you feel Earth and humanity's pain, like,
Shit.
yeah, I don't feel it, but I can see it happening, and like I'm very aware, and it's like I like if I bring myself into that energy, yeah, I can feel it all, right? But I don't like the astrology shit, but like, fire sign, and I work with the air. You are what? Earth sign? Water sign?
Water. Pisces.
Yeah, so emotions, right? You pick up
Exactly.
emotions, and you embody everything because you didn't disassociate. So it's
So I
really
literally feel it in my body as like pain or sick or yeah.
and you didn't observe that it wasn't yours. You took it
Correct.
in. And yet I observed, but since I left my body, I wasn't aware that I was taking it in because I wasn't ever listening to my body.
You weren't feeling it in the body. It's like you were watching it as like a third person. Yeah.
Yeah.
The bird's eye view, like what we do when we're, wow, dude, that is
I,
so.
so many chills. Holy shit.
And you know what's crazy? When Ed and I did ghost hunting, I would always feel. That's why when I first started taking classes, Debbie asked us like our first class, well, why do you think, why are you here? And I'm like, I'm clairsentient because I feel everything. Like, and I legitimately do. But like, and I knew that, but like now as I reflect on just different experiences, and every time we did ghost hunting, I didn't see stuff, right? Like it's not like I was like I'm much more clairvoyant now that I've honed in on all of the gifts, but it's like I could feel
Mm.
things in my body. I felt illness in certain rooms, like an immediate shift, like, and it was like, oh my God, like oh my God, my body feels everything like all the time. And I believe that I was that way since I was a kid. Now that we're talking about it and I'm really thinking back,
Mm,
yep,
yeah.
I felt, and I just had this memory. I don't know why. I remember we were talking about Old Yeller and how like I literally put myself through torture as a child because I would watch that movie over and over, like hoping that the end would change,
It
but
doesn't.
being like literally sick to my stomach every time at the I'm like, why did I put it's like I was willingly putting my body and my emotions through this pain, like very young. Like I was young when I watched that movie. Yeah.
See, that's how I couldn't even watch
And
the
you
end
were
of
like,
Air Bud. I
you
mean,
were like,
yeah,
dude,
over
I'm
over.
like, you don't even know how many times I watched that. Like, my mom probably knows. Like, she's
No.
like, you would stop it, rewind it, and rewatch it.
Yeah, that's like torturing yourself. Like
It's like I was like, I don't know. That's weird. Like, was I trying to prepare myself for my my life ahead?
maybe because you're
Like,
thinking about it.
this is what it's gonna be like to feel emotions for the rest of your life. So
Yeah,
feel
yeah, probably. Because
like legit.
yeah, because when we have thoughts like that, they're not just a thought. That there's a reason for that.
That's what I mean. I'm like, why did I just start thinking about this recently? And as we're having this conversation, it's coming to like the forefront of my mind again. And I'm like, did I do that purposely to prepare myself? I really actually think I did. As fucking crazy as that sounds, because it doesn't make sense that I would have wanted to. It doesn't make sense to me. It did not make sense to my mom. It didn't make sense to anybody in the family that I wanted to keep watching this and like be just like overly distraught every single time.
Yeah,
But
and
it's like,
when you mention the clairsentience and stuff, I remember having such a hard time when I was learning the Records with Nancy, and then the first time I was in Debbie's class, that mediumship class that was already going on for 6 months. Um, I was like, I don't know. And they're like, well, do you visually see things? I'm like, yeah. Well, do you feel things? Yeah. But since you're talking about it, I realize that I don't, unless I put myself into someone's energy, like, right, their aura or whatever, I don't feel them. I just read their energy. And I didn't realize that that's what I was doing until just now. Because now I'm aware that I just go completely into their energy and then I disassociate from their energy. So I can feel them, I can witness, see, hear, taste, whatever. I can do everything, right?
yeah,
But it's like starting the awakening journey or spiritual whatever. Um,
whatever this shit show is.
yeah, I'm like, I don't even know what you can call it. I I realized that I was just it was like I was seeing it and not embodying, not feeling it. I was like sensing it, but not bringing it into me unless I called it into me to feel it, to, deliver a message. Like with you, I know mediumship um, kind of freaks us out a little bit. We're good at it, but it freaks us out because, people rely on connecting with their loved ones that have passed. And we're just compassionate beings and want to deliver the right message. But I bet you are able to feel how they died more than I would be able to because I can see and then like it's like me, I'm in the death, right?
Yes.
And now the person rather than feeling them and looking at them. Like I become them and then I become in the scene like with past lives. I'm running with them and I'm hearing everything and like I'm seeing
Yes.
everything. But when I started, I thought that I was clairsentient because I was like, yeah, I feel everything. But I wasn't. I was observing everything. And you were feeling everything.
Yep. Wow.
And so with nursing, like I kept having like shit after like relationship shit with friends and family and boyfriends that were very toxic and waking me up, waking me up, waking me up until it started, ridding away inside of my body. And that's when I was like feeling everything. And that's when I realized, oh my God, energy from others comes into us. I need to be in my body, but I don't even know how.
Wow.
I don't even know how to be in my fucking body. I know how to walk into a room and a person laying in a bed, and I will tell you what's wrong with them, their history, what medicines they shouldn't be on, what things they should take, where the wound originated in their body. I can read people and know immediately. But I never expressed it because people are gonna be like, "You're fucking nuts," right? And so my whole spiritual awakening was learning how to like be in my body and stay in it
Yep.
and feel comfortable. And that didn't happen until the cancer. Like,
Wow.
holy shit.
Holy shit.
I think I'm gonna cry. Because, yeah, it's so easy for me to be outside to read people's energy because getting too close to me felt very unsafe.
Hmm.
Like, people hugging me, I used to be a hugger all the time. But then, like, you know, society, whatever. And then that one person who called me an empath and looked at me like I was a leper. Um, she was basically telling me, like, without me knowing till now, like, you are taking in everyone's energy because she could read my energy just like I can read everyone else's.
Yeah.
And if she communicated that nicely, more compassionately for me to understand that,
But
but I wouldn't have
probably
went
wasn't
through
for
it.
your understanding at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 I know.
She's like, shut the fuck up.
I know. That's so that's so interesting because like
Yes, it is.
when I remember just memory, not old Yeller, but I remember coming home I moved to Florida because this guy I was dating was cheating on me and made me feel like shit. And I thought that if I ran away, went somewhere else, it'd be okay.
Of course. Why not? Doesn't that work?
Yeah, like out of sight, out of mind, right? No, because even when I was out of sight, he was still cheating. So it's like, that was dumb. But I didn't know. But I remember it was Valentine's Day and I was in Florida and I listened to this voicemail. I was like, that's weird. He called me and whatever. And I listened to it and I could hear him and the girl. And they were just having a conversation, but like they were telling each other they love each other and all this stuff. And I'm like, and I remember that was one of the first times I felt my body getting very hot and shaky and anger rising in my body. And I just was like, ah! And I remember like punching a pillow and screaming, but then I was ashamed to share that with people. Because I was like, what's wrong with me that this is happening? So then when I would talk to him, I'm like, why would you do that? Like, or I'd be like, what the fuck? But I wasn't. I, it's just so funny that like I'm having all these fucking epiphanies right now and I'm swearing a lot because I'm like, my higher self's like, duh. Like, welcome home. And all of these times that thing have happened in my family, like when my mom was like drinking again and didn't come to my birthday, but she like came to like whatever, it doesn't matter. I remember going in my house and like taking pots and pans and like I'm like I don't even know what I was doing, but I was in the cabinet like banging pans around like pissed off because I could feel it in my body and I couldn't leave my body. I was like, "Oh my God, what's happening? Like why am I so angry?" It's like, "Why can't I just leave? Like why can't I just go?" And it's now all making sense to me. My soul has been trying to wake me up for a really long time.
All
And,
of us. You're not the only one in that boat.
and it wasn't until like I started getting physically
Sick.
ill, yeah, that I
Same with
was
me.
like, universe, help me out here. Like I can't be a nurse if wow. Yeah.
Same with me. That's why when you got sick, it was like, remember I said, I'm like, well, there's no coincidence that I have gone through much physical disease and now I am where I am and now this is happening to you. Like I knew that, but like as we're talking about it more, like it always just gets deeper and deeper. And it's just it's like fascinating to me that like you and I were reading energy complete, but we were doing it differently. Like I was observing just like you were, but I was observing through the feeling of all of it. Like I was feeling everybody's everything. And because of that, I was losing the discernment of what was me and what was everything else. And I do believe by being a nurse, I absorbed because I was in sickness. So I absorbed. That's probably why I was so sick. Like I had been a nurse for 7 years when I started getting sick because I was around sick people.
Hmm. Yep.
And to me, like, same thing when I was told I was an empath, I was basically told the same thing you were without being directly told that. But as you're saying that, I'm flashing back and I'm like, oh my God, that's what I was told too, without being directly told that.
Mm.
And so for a while, and I think this is where I still, not that I struggle with the label of empath, I just struggle with labels in general. But there's where I think this is where I still have sort of like an opinion around empath because when I was first told that, it empowered me, we'll say. I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not to blame. Like I'm just absorbing everybody. Like this is great. Like I'm just super sensitive to energy, which I know. Like I know I've been sensitive my whole life, right? But it was like so it empowered me in the sense that like I started to be able to learn energy, kind of like what you were saying. Like holy shit, energy like affects me. My energy affects other people. Like yeah, you know that on some level, but we
You don't.
really don't. Like we really don't. So it was like I went through these stages of after being labeled an empath. And then it was when I was watching that show Manifest,
Hmm.
the plane one.
Hmm. Oh, I know.
And when I watched that, the one that got Zeke, right? When he like dies and comes back. And when he came back, he was an empath. Like that was the gift. Like he survived the death date or something. So when he came back and I'm watching it and I'm like, dude, that is what like I felt like they did such a good job like really to me like illustrating what I have felt being an empath was to me. I was like, he's he's feeling like he's actually feeling them, not from a I'm observing it and this is what I'm deducting, I'm seeing, right? Like it wasn't from an analytical, like he was literally feeling their emotions, their experiences, and whether it was good or bad. Like, and that's to me like that's what I feel like an empath or somebody that's feeling energy is doing. Like they're not just feeling the bad. And every empath that comes to me that is in this victimized mindset of I'm an empath, I just like they're never telling me they feel the joy of things. It's only the bad stuff, which then is a red flag to me that no, you're getting triggered by a lot of other people's stuff and it's your own stuff that's being triggered. And yes, maybe you're feeling them, but if you're not like and I can remember my whole life like I felt everybody's everything. So when people were really happy, I felt that. Like I felt it. When people were sad, I felt that. When people were angry, I felt that. When people were happy, like I loved being at weddings because like I could feel that connection. And so when I watched that show, I was like, that to me is like what my experience has been in life. Like I felt all of it. But the problem was that I guess made me sick is that I didn't realize that I was feeling me, but I was allowing everybody, I was just absorbing it because I was feeling it. And instead of like now, when we do readings, I know how to disconnect in the sense that set myself to be the hollow bone so I can feel it but not absorb it. I'm the hollow bone. I'm not taking in your energy nor am I giving you mine. Like I'm this clear channel, right? So like I'm much better at now not absorbing and then in my conscious just daily life, I because I'm aware of the fact that that's a tendency of mine, that's where I'm learning boundaries because it's like wow, I really do absorb other people, their emotions. It's their emotions that I'm taking in.
as you're taught, all of these epiphanies are
Epiphanies?
happening right now, and like the one just now was when I was in the Conjuring house this time last year, right? Because it's May something, right? This time last year.
Oh, I
I
just got chills when you said that.
because I can say it and it doesn't bother me, right? I was like, I'm good. I can go to the Conjuring house, like blah blah blah. Like Maria and everybody just goes like, I'm good, blah blah blah. And but the children and Bathsheba and everybody was coming to me before I went to the Conjuring house, remember? And I was like, I can hear them, like their names. And then my brother's like, yeah, okay. We get there, they're written on the wall. Like, he's like, oh my God. I'm like, told you. Like, and I was putting protection around everyone else. And there was a girl that, I can't remember if she was part of our party or like one of, I think she was like just like, with a couple and just like joined our party. I don't know. Because we all stayed overnight. And I remember her, I was like, are you okay? And she was like, and I saw energy go into her. And then I saw her whole body was just like energy. And I was like, what is going on? And then she's like, I'm going to be sick. And then she runs outside. I feel like she's you, right? Like taking it in. Cause I'm like, cause I could see it. And I'm like, oh God. So I'm grabbing the crystals and like I'm grabbing the sage. I'm like, get in this room, blah, blah,
It's
blah. I think,
going in her.
yeah. And everyone's like, what are you freaking out about? I'm like, I can see it. Like she's taking it in. And because she was shit faced, right? And she's like, nah, nah. And she
Oh
was,
God, then she was definitely taking it all in.
yeah. And she was very, uh, she was, nothing, I'm good. Like, it's just a spirit. Like, not, you know. And here I am. I'm
Hold
like,
on, phone call coming in. Pause that thought.
okay. Do you want me to mute you?
Yeah, I'll mute me.
So this video started because Maria and I were talking about anger. And we were both having like little breakdowns, like not mental breakdowns, but well, kind of. And one of us was just really holding space for the other person to just be, to cry, to scream, to express, um, because we need to feel in order to move past things. We can't just keep shoving shit aside. And then we started talking about anger and cancer. And we were laughing because we should have recorded before the anger conversation, because it was like, this is what a spiritual awakening really looks like, where you're like going crazy. So then we hit record after. But the spiritual awakening and the spiritual journey, returning home to who you are, learning your gifts, working with your shadows, which is really just bringing light to parts of you that you don't understand, that you're unaware of, that have been protecting you, that have been shut down. It's hard work and it's emotional. It's worth it, but it's hard. So when you are going through a lot of stuff in life and it just feels heavy on you and you think you're going crazy, you need to just be with it, observe it, cry it out, scream, write, like just start writing, dancing, doing anything to help release and be with the emotions, be with the thoughts, and not be drowned by them, right? And when you go through your like awakening process of learning about yourself, seeing the world differently, it's very important to have a partner that, and what I mean by partner is a support system, a healthy one, where when you go through these emotional crazy times, you're not being judged and you can easily just say, hey, I'm going through this stuff, like just hold space for me. And that's why Maria and I got into coaching, because we know the importance of, when you're going through this journey, having someone there to support you, so you're not crazy and to just be there because it can get lonely. So, welcome back, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Explaining how before we hit record, we were going through a mental breakdown, and
Oh, yeah. Wish we got that on recording.
yeah, where I was like, this is what the spiritual process really looks like. And so, um,
I feel I've seen a meme on Facebook where there's like um something like that, like the true spiritual, awakening process. And it's like a picture of somebody on like a yoga mat, and then the picture below is like somebody from, like a gladiator movie,
yeah,
like freaking
rugged,
out,
yeah.
like and this is what it feels like to spiritually awaken. Yes, friends, it would have been good if you had gotten me on camera, because it would have we would have used it as, do you ever feel like this? Then
If so,
come meditate with us so you can feel like this.
because it's not easy.
No, no, it's not. It's the balance of the human spiritual journey. The spirit thinks it's all a cakewalk. It's the human part of us that's like, come on, this
Yep.
is bullshit.
Yep. And that's the fun of the balance, right?
Yep, that's right. Yin yang. That's why we offer yin yang sessions.
Yep. We both tag team you in a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so with the Conjuring House, revert back. Um, when I started to see things coming towards me, and I started to have fear, and
Yep.
I couldn't escape it. I was like, oh my God, because I saw what happened to her, who was embodying it and was physically getting ill. And so then I got fear because I was like, fuck. And then I would see things like in the basement, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I need to be on the wood, right? And I needed to drop down to the wood because the wood is a conductor of energy. And I wouldn't have thought of that in my fear state, right? Like my human self, but my
Right.
higher self was like, get on the floor. So I'm on
Earth.
the floor, yeah. Which I know now was those soldiers really helping me, putting me down, right? But when I'm in it, I couldn't feel anything coming onto me, but I could see things pulling me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I can see it. And I was out of my body because I was now watching it. And I remember standing behind Kevin as he's like saging me and he's like, oh my God. And then he went to go do something. And I remember observing my body walk up the stairs. And I was like, I was not me. I'm like, oh my God, what just came into my body? Oh my God. But I couldn't go into my body. And it was just looking at a thermostat, reading numbers 666. And I was like, what the fuck? And then that's why I was possessed for a couple, like, whatever, 2 days or something. And like, I couldn't even cut things, right? Because I wasn't in my body. I disassociated. I observed it. And that's why when the cancer,
Holy shit.
yeah. And that's why with the cancer, Bathsheba came right out and the Conjuring House came through because it was like, yeah. Remember when you disassociated from your body? And it was the perfect time for them to come into my compassionate vessel in order, because my higher self knew they could, because I would eventually come around to release them, right? Not because they were trying to hurt me,
No,
but
they were part of your awakening.
yeah,
Again, they were part of like another part of your awakening.
embodied, embodied
Yes.
awakening. Yeah.
Yes.
And like, whoa. Like,
Yeah. Like fucking whoa is right.
yeah. And now it makes sense too. Like when I was getting Reiki certified, and they're like, can you feel the energy here? And I'm like, no. So I thought there was something wrong with me. Because I'm like, but
Yep.
I was, when I was getting certified, right? Like there was like a bunch of us sitting around this table, and they're like, all right, now get up and give someone Reiki. I still don't even, I must have physically got up, but I don't remember physically getting up out of my chair, going behind the person doing Reiki on them. Because I remember just watching myself doing it and seeing in their body where they needed it. And that's when I was like, these Reiki symbols make no sense to me. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know if I'm. because
Yeah.
I couldn't feel the energy. I was observing it. And since the extraction, the cancer gift, and then Nico and feeling everything, that is why I can now have people cross through me. I feel them now and I can send them out. Now I can feel when someone's ill, I actually feel it. I'm like, oh, I'm realizing I'm feeling it. I'm not observing it as much anymore. It's like, this is wild. I know we started talking about
And
anger,
this
but
is
like,
wild because as you are saying that, my readings have evolved in the opposite way.
yin
I
and yang.
used to feel way more, and now my clairvoyance is like what you are describing is what happens to me when I do readings. It's
Hmm.
like I'm there in it with them, but I'm also watching it, but I don't feel like how I have felt my whole life.
Hmm. This is,
So it's like, but when I first started reading energy, it was I was I was doing it in the way that I've done it my whole life. I didn't realize that's what I was doing my whole life.
yeah, yeah. And when me and you had that 2 Wednesdays, was it 2 Wednesdays ago after the meditation, right?
Yeah, was it two? Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. Yep.
You were observing me. I
Yes.
was feeling the energy.
Yes. Yes. And I'm observing you, watching you going, I know what's happening to her because which is probably also why I was able to be as
Calm.
like calm because I'm like, oh, honey, I know what you're going through. It ain't fun. Fucking ain't fun, but you got this.
Yeah,
We got this. Like, holy shit, you're right. Because
yeah,
I was even like I was like not reacting to you at all. I can remember like back to it now and like you were like control like you were doing probably what I've done much of my life when I feel shit. Like exactly. And it was like, wow, yeah, I know what's happening right now. Then I was able to boom, shut my eyes, see the trauma, see both of our traumas from that what was coming through. But I wasn't getting sucked into the feeling of it. It was just like I was watching it all like a movie.
yeah. Perfect prime example. Because I couldn't see anything. Remember? I was like, I'm blind. I can't see. It
Because
feels like,
you were supposed to feel all that.
yeah. And the
Whoa.
sound, which that never makes that sound for that,
Ever.
um, was supposed to be exactly for us to be triggered. So
Yep.
we could probably have this conversation too, but like see that we've now up leveled or we've now like, okay, we moved to another level of awakening. Because I couldn't fucking see anything, and that's what was scaring me. All I could just hear, and I felt like someone was stabbing my brain, and I thought that I was burning, and you were just watching me, and I was like this, like in the fucking,
Yes.
because I couldn't leave my body, and I wanted to, so that's why I was contorting, because I was like, get me out of here.
And this goes back to how our different experiences. So when you think of it, like what you were describing in the Conjuring house, you were seeing all that. So that's going to create a fear in you because you're fucking seeing it happen. Just
Yeah,
like if you were, like you're seeing me in the physical, right? Like, because now that I see so much, it's like it's actually physically happening right there. It feels the sight
yeah,
of it is like just as real. So I can see how that like you're now seeing all this stuff and that's fucking scary as fuck. And then there's me who can't see shit but's feeling it all and is like, what the fuck is coming at me? I can feel it, but I can't see it. So this is scary as fuck because I can't see it. So when you think you can't see it, you have no control over it. But even when you can see it, you still don't have control over it. You only have control over
yes,
you.
yeah,
Fuck.
boom,
And
yeah,
I just got massive full body chills with that.
yeah, my heart's smiling again, and I have heat down my whole spine.
It's literally how two completely different experiences are still just as fucking scary,
Mm-hmm.
but also fucking enlightening as fuck.
Yeah, yeah. Because people would be like, because I remember with that girl, they were like, What's wrong?" And I'm like, and then when I saw Bathsheba upstairs on the bed, and I saw the who was laying on the bed, two boys were laying on the bed, and they thought it was funny because they were like taunting her, like she loves men, blah blah. And I was like, "Get off the bed right now." And they're like, "What do you mean?" Because I could see her with my eyes open. Usually I have to have them closed,
Right.
but I was like, "Get off the bed." I can see she's trying to go into your body, and because she's looking for, she wanted an escape. It wasn't because she's trying to hurt people, right? In the Conjuring house. Hey, everyone, we crossed over the Conjuring house. Just saying.
Yeah.
Um, but
So, all the money it's making off the fucking horror movies
yeah,
and shit. Sorry. We cleared that timeline.
yep. Lorraine Warren channels through me. Sorry, guys. So, um, bomb drop. But anyways, so Kevin's like, "When are you gonna start telling people? You need to write a book." I'm like, "When it's time," and I guess it's time because my whole body's cold right now. But they were like, "What are you seeing? You can't see her. You can't see her." No, they were like, "What are you seeing? What are you seeing?" And I'm like, just fucking move." So then when that woman got sick, they were like, "What happened?" I'm like, "Cause it went into
Went
her."
in her.
And they were like, "Oh." And so then when I'm laying on the ground, they think nothing's happening to me other than Kevin, because Kevin's like, "What is happening to you?" Everyone else is like in La La Land because I put all protection around them. I didn't put protection around the girl and her husband because I didn't know that they were coming, right? And she was kind of annoying, but just her voice. But probably because she was just drunk, and I was like, "Dude," and I don't like taunting spirit. Meanwhile, I'm doing the Ouija board like an idiot, right? But anyways, you live and you learn, sister. So, anyways, I could see it happening, and you're right. It put the fear in me, and before going there, I could hear it and I could see it, and then when we get there, I just like my brother was like, "You are everything you described is here," and I'm like, "Yeah, do you believe me now? Like what I do?" Like, and then it's just so crazy because we're not. This is something we're not taught in the spiritual world. Of you're not just cognizant, you're not just clairsentient, voyant, whatever the rest of them are, right? Like they just merge. Yeah,
Audience, yeah.
it's
Cognizant, yeah.
and there's not just one way.
No.
There's all different ways, and it's a matter of understanding which one is really your way in order to have it empower that empath part of you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because if I had known, I'm Googling what an empath is because I don't even know, right?
Yeah, I've never looked up the word, but basically it's like em
Highly sensitive
so
being.
when they say empathy, right? It means you feel for others. That's literally what empathy means. So, like, you feel for them. So, it's different from sympathy, where sympathy is a very ego based thing because you
Yeah.
actually feel sorry for somebody, right? Like, you pity
Mhm.
them, which basically means you are enabling them to be in a victim state. Where empathy literally just means you feel for the person. So, an empath means they feel other people, like, they feel them.
Yeah. So here it says the meaning of empath, and it's the same everywhere, is someone who feels more empathy than the average person. See, this is the problem with
Yeah, when you Google
dictionary.
shit.
It's like,
That's
no,
why I've never even looked it up. I've only like taken basically what that book that you had
yeah,
suggested to me, Survival Guide for Empaths,
yeah.
and then just kind of under learning energy myself and what I've perceived myself to be. And again, watching that show Manifest when they had him, and I was like, see, to me, that is a perfect illustration of what I have experienced. Like that is what empath means to me. It's like he's literally feeling everybody's emotions like he's in their body,
Hmm. Yeah.
like he's in their body. So does that mean I also disassociated and jumped into other people's bodies, or did I just allow their energy to jump into mine?
No, because if you were disassociating, you wouldn't be like I'm experiencing things.
Correct,
So
correct.
you're actually allowing them
I'm allowing them in,
unconsciously.
yes,
Yeah.
into my body so then I can feel it just like as if I were merged with their body.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
And what I was saying that I hate
yeah.
is when the dictionary gives the word in the definition. It's
I
like,
do too.
so
Yeah,
anyway,
remember in school they told us you
yeah,
can't do that?
yeah.
School, please don't even, won't go there today.
So it's
That'll be another conversation.
So it says
It,
highly attuned to the energy and emotions around them, right? Or coming from individuals, blah blah. But if you think about it, we're all just energy. So it's
right.
a matter of how you are
How
aware
are
of
you in
the
tune?
energy.
How are you in tune to
Yeah.
it?
Because we're
Which
all
is
in
why
tune.
I believe everybody is an empath
Yeah.
because we're all energetic beings, which
Yeah.
means we're all energy and we can feel energy because we are energy. That's where I started getting like, oh, this empath label has gotten out of control. It's gotten out of control because, like, again, people are using it as a crutch and almost a way to blame external energies, and then they don't have to do their own work and discern what they're absorbing from other people, what's their own. And so to me, it has become, from what I've observed, a very disempowering label because every single person I talk to that's like, I'm an empath, but it's always from the perspective of poor me. I feel everybody's everything, so I can't be around anybody anymore. Like that's literally every person I've talked to that is in this kind of state. And I remember feeling that way. But
Hmm.
this is so crazy too, because it's like as I'm taking our two experiences and how scary both of them are because you're seeing everything. So it's scary because
Hmm.
it's more real when you're seeing it versus I'm feeling everything and I can't see shit, but I can feel it all. So like it's just as real to me as you seeing it, but it's scary because I don't see what's coming at me or I don't see it,
Hmm.
which now is why, as I have evolved my gifts and tapped into them more or allowed them to naturally become part of me, and spirit works with me now much more on a clairvoyant, it's because I can handle it now. Because the darkness that spirit has shown me, it's like I had to release a lot of my own stuff energetically, emotionally, before I think I could have swallowed seeing what I've been shown now. So it's like now I can see it without getting pulled into the emotion of it. Like when I'm shown all of the darkness that happens here, right? Like
Yep.
it's like two very different experiences of unveiling the truth. But now I'm understanding too why, like, I don't want to watch stuff in the external that incites that. I don't want to see it because it's like I don't need to see it, people. I feel it. I
Yep.
feel it all the time. And
Hmm.
if I watch it, it's going to make me feel it 10 times more because I already feel it. Holy shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
But this is why spirit works with me now about becoming more clairvoyant because they're like, you're ready to, like, you have felt it your whole life. You're ready to see now what you've been feeling. It's okay. It doesn't change. This should actually, it empowers you because now you can understand what you were feeling.
Hmm. Exactly. And
Fuck. But like, both still just as in tune to energy as the other person, but just using their different gifts to,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I just put down a link that we should both read, but it talks about ancient wisdom around the real meaning of empath. And just a little tiny thing right here. It says, for ancient wisdom, this means that the personal soul is mortal. So the higher elements of mind, however, together with the spiritual duad, constitute someone being immortal. So an empath is truly just someone who's in the mortal existence having experiences.
In the body.
That was the ancient wisdom that's then been, just like everything else, convoluted and twisted to bring a different,
Meaning to empath.
yeah,
So
make
basically,
you judge yourself.
it basically means an empath is energy that's embodied
Yes.
in the fucking body. Which is why,
Path,
again,
path, M, right? Like turn
yes,
turn M around me, my path,
yep,
embodying my path, embodying my
yep.
path. I have full
Which
chills.
is why I say everybody is an empath, like because we're all energy embodied on some level. Even when you disassociate, there's still an aspect of you that's in your body. Your body wouldn't still be floating around here if like there wasn't something in it. But yes, when you disassociate, your higher state of your more awareness floats away. But yeah, fucking crazy.
So I don't know if I ever told you when I got chased in Mexico.
Yes.
Okay. So this is coming forward, and it's relating to a bunch of my relationships growing up where now I'm realizing I was angry because I was seeing things, knowing things, and no one freaking believed me. So I would just stop sharing it. And in Mexico, I saw what was I saw the potential outcome, and I was geared to the living potential. And like I remember just leaving the ship, like being on the boat and being like, something's wrong, something's off. I'm not gonna drink this last drink. Something's, and then I like saw the energy around. I thought that I was feeling it, but I wasn't. I
You
was
were
seeing it.
seeing it. I'm getting chills as you're saying this.
And because I remember them looking at us, and then me just like observing everything, and all the girls in the boat like, "Ah!" Like, and I'm just like looking around. This is why I take Adderall. Oh my fucking god. Ah,
Oh my God, it's why I smoked a lot of pot to numb the pain that my body was constantly absorbing.
oh my god. Okay, this is awakening, people. So,
At your finest, as we speak. This
yeah,
is what happens every time we talk, which is why we decided to start recording these because we
even if no
awaken
one
every
listens.
time we fucking have a conversation.
Yeah, even if no one listens, we don't care. This is great.
This
So,
is great.
this is living. So,
Seriously.
um, so
Bandit's just looking at me like
hey
he can
Ben.
feel us, see
Yeah,
us, sense us. He's like,
yeah.
these two. Yeah.
So when we left the boat and we were like walking to our hotel, we realized it wasn't our hotel, right? So we're walking down the path. I just remember walking and looking back, seeing a man who wasn't close to us, but I remember seeing him, and I remember seeing him on the boat. And then I remember seeing someone that looked just like him sitting in a car outside of the boat, or like by a car. And I'm like, you guys walk faster, because I felt the fear come in me, because I realized what I was observing. And then as I was walking, I was seeing what was going to happen. And I was like, oh my God, walk. And they're like, what? And I'm like, fucking run. And then, like, we turn around, the guy's chasing after us. And
Jesus.
now there's more people coming. And I'm like, oh my God. And so, in Cancun, there's busy roads.
Yep.
And I'm like, run across. And we ran to the island. And I like was wearing heels. I'm like, fuck. So I took off my heels and I'm trying to run. I'm not a runner. No. And I
But when
ended
it's
up,
for your life, I mean, you
yeah.
probably find a level of
Yeah. If I
ability that
knew what I
maybe
knew
you
now, I would have channeled my inner like Olympic runner if I knew
marathon. You're a marathoner.
marathoner, because yeah, I was like and I'm trying to run, and I threw my it's either my phone or my thing of money. I think I threw both because they were in the same thing. But I remember visually seeing jump visually seeing me jump in front of a car and get in the car. So I'm like, jump, and they're like, what? I'm like, jump. So I jumped in front of a car, and it just stopped. Like, and it happened to be a taxi. And I remember getting in it and being like freaking out, and they're like, what the fuck? And they're like mad at me, and I'm like, dude. And then they see, and then the taxi guy sees what's happening, because then he sees the guys. He's like, oh, and then he brings us to our hotel. The cops come, blah blah blah, all this stuff. And I remember going to the bathroom, crying, like freaking out, people with us yelling at me because like I saw it happening, and like, dude, I just fucking saved our lives, and you're pissed at me because I ruined your butt. I don't know, like whatever. And now it makes sense. I was angry because nobody freaking understood what I just, like, not I, but spirit just like came through and was like, go. And that's happened so many times. I should have been dead or taken or raped, sold, whatever. But I saw what was happening before it happened.
Yep.
And now I'm learning to embody it, but I don't
Feel
know
it.
what's coming. Yeah. Now I'm not even getting a
Yeah,
warning.
and I'm the complete opposite. It's like now I'm being shown, and I would say it's in the last like 6 months, I've been shown clairvoyantly much more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in regards to not like when I'm doing not for readings and stuff. Obviously, when I do a reading, you're setting the intention, so they're always going to show you.
Yeah.
But more about like the collective and everything, right? So it's like I've been feeling it for since before I even awakened. I didn't realize it. And also, that was another thing I sort of had like 2012 was when like Earth really started like this massive ascension. That's
Mm-hmm.
when I was diagnosed with my autoimmune disease. Was 2012.
Wow. What was
Yeah.
I doing in 2012? How old was I in 2012?
Well, I was 27.
Oh, that's 10 years ago, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah, I was 27. Oh yeah, it was 10 years ago. It's been a decade.
Oh, I was 24. Mm. I don't know what I was doing. Oh, a lot of bad stuff was happening.
Yeah, 27, I was not in a great place either. But
Yeah,
obviously, I was manifesting a lot of disease, but it's just, I found that interesting. I'm like, wow, that was, they consider that one of the years in this linear time where this particular Earth ascension really started was in 2012. And I'm like, well, that's no coincidence that that's literally when I was diagnosed with all my shit. And then from there, it progressively just got worse. But it's like, I, yeah, it's just wild to me that two totally different experiences, yet the emotions that came forth for both of us were the same, right? My anger was I always felt everything. How the fuck do you explain that to people?
mm-hmm.
I got no, remember we talking about tangible evidence? Oh, it's just a feeling. Yeah, because that that makes sense to people that aren't maybe necessarily in tune to energy. And when I think of it, that stemmed from a young age. So just like you, I stopped. I just wouldn't say it anymore. I didn't express it because I was like, well, nobody believes me anyway. It's like that. Well, I wouldn't believe me. It's batshit crazy. I know. But I could always feel like what you were saying about that situation. You saw like the potential timelines that could happen in Mexico. And when I think back to like things that I encountered as a kid and like more my teenage years, like I would always be the one that had a bad feeling when we were somewhere right before something would happen. So I didn't know what was going to happen, but I just knew something that was not going to be maybe for our highest or best, or maybe it was, but not something that we wanted to encounter. Um, I could feel it coming. And I couldn't, which was hard to explain to people because I couldn't even see what it was. I just could feel the offness. I could feel the shift in energy. So
Mm.
just like you, I started to become very angry that I could always feel all of it all the time. Nobody else could, or in my mind, nobody else could. Because what makes a good victim mind? Well, just make it so, you're the only one that has to go through this. So, yeah, in my mind, nobody else could feel it and nobody could understand. So, in turn, throat chakra closed, keep it all in, suppress all my shit, and get sick at 27. And here we are, 37 and feeling much better.
Yeah. And now I'm thinking about people in my life because I'm like, wow, this is what Justin was saying about have you noticed that earth and I mean air signs, fires, whatever, they connect differently, they're feeling things differently. And I think this is what he was trying to
This
figure out.
is Yes, this is why he said it to you. And like him planting that seed to get you thinking. And then you asked me about it. And I was like, because you and I feel the same way about astrology. I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, I'll think about it. But then since you've planted that seed, I'm like, holy punk,
Yeah.
there's a little something to this.
Yeah.
Because nothing's coincidence. And they're that, like, again, you nailed it. You're fire, right?
Hmm.
You're fire? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm water.
Hmm.
I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Fire water, sausage party.
Well, firewater, I also drank that in Portugal. That was Kevin got like a fruity like let's say like a daiquiri. And I was like, I'll have some fire water. And it's like potent alcohol that's probably like 200 proof. But they only give you like this much. And I remember drinking it and it tastes like syrup. And then getting a massage and I like totally left my body during the massage. That like she was like, you all right? And I remember trying to get up and I was like, because I couldn't, I left my body. Like I was like, where the fuck did I just go? Because it was potent shit. But anyways, I don't recommend trying it. That's for sure. But now, yeah, like every single time now that I'm thinking about it, I was seeing everything like I
Yeah,
was
which
observing.
is scary as fuck because you're seeing it coming, right? You're seeing what's coming. So that induces fear. I'm feeling what's coming and I can't fucking see it, but I can feel it, people. I know. So it's like just as fucking scary because it's like I don't see it, but I feel it with that same sense of truth that you do as you're seeing it. So
Mhm.
it's just as real. And it's so crazy because as you're talking, when you just talking about fire water, this is brings up another epiphany for me because you like how I said with alcohol, like I never liked alcohol. Like I fake drank in high school, people. So anybody that knew me then when I was at
It was
parties,
like,
yeah, I was jumping into the bathroom to be cool, but that's all right. I can admit that
I do that now with shots. I'm like, yeah. And I throw it over my shoulder.
But now because when you were here, I remember saying it to you about like how I can feel the shift in people when they drink alcohol.
Mhm.
And that's also why I never liked it because I hated the way it made my body feel. It felt toxic to me when I would put it in me. And then I would feel sick. So it was like I never liked it, but there were years where absolutely I drank. I was never really a big drinker, but I would drink in social places to fit in, merely to fit in. But I'm like, as you were talking about that, I'm like, that's why I didn't fucking like out because it really there was no judgment. It was just like I fucking hated the way it felt in my body, which must be why when I'm around people when they're drinking, I feel that same because it's like, oh God, I hate alcohol in my body, and so I'm feeling what it is in them, and they may not even be feeling what I feel like, but it's like triggering that same like response inside of me like oh that toxin like that
Yeah.
toxin that's like feels poisonous to my body. Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
we both grew up with, like, your dad was an alcoholic, right? Both my parents were. My dad's functioning. And, um,
And my dad also functioned, yeah, like actually the whole time I was present he was a recovered, but yeah,
yeah. And,
but still the tendencies of yeah.
yeah. And I don't know where I was going with that, but, oh, so when I realized that I would be working late, like from the hospital, and just be so upset with what was going on, I couldn't fall asleep. So I would watch like movies where people or shows where people are angry, Ray Donovan, right? And other ones where I'm like, they're drinking whiskey, I'm gonna drink whiskey. And then eventually I realized, oh my God, I'm doing what my parents do. I'm doing what I've seen other people. I was like, no, no. Like I saw the potential of what was going to happen. Because I wasn't even feeling. I was like, I could have drank a whole bottle of whiskey, not felt it, and I'm like, what's
Because
going on?
you were like numb. You were numb to the feeling of it, but
Yeah.
you were aware in the sense that you saw
Mm-hmm.
what the pattern that you could
Yeah.
have created or continued. Yeah.
And now I know why when I had two margaritas last Friday night with Jen and Sam, I was hurting for 2 days. Like my body, my head.
Yes,
I was
because
like,
now you're
fuck.
in your body. So now you're like, oh God.
Yeah, I drink a
You're
glass.
validating like what I was saying. Like, oh God, like I hated every aspect of it. The during, the and certainly the after was
Yeah. And
worse.
yeah, I didn't really ever feel it. I'm like, this is weird. But I was very cognizant of my limit because I
Yep.
could see what, oh, don't, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and since I disassociated from my body a lot, I would, I would like wake up drunk. Like, I never actually got drunk when I'd be out partying to like 4 in the morning. All of a sudden, like, I'd fall asleep, wake up, and I'm like, I'm drunk. Oh, this feels weird. And then, like, I'd want to leave my body because I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, liquor, it it affects your liver. Liver is anger
Anger.
and it's fire.
And here we go right back to the anger again. I love how the convo came like full fucking circle.
Yeah. And liver is the anger, it's fire element, right? Like Ayurveda and all that Chinese medicine.
Yep.
There's also, I forget what other elements are within the liver, but it's like, oh my God, because when you smoke, it's to like numb it out, right? Me smoking, I just wanted to eat because I needed to like, I don't, I was gone, but like I was in my body and I couldn't go. So like
Oh my God, and I
I'd be
smoke
in
to
my
fly
body.
away.
Yeah.
I
I would be
smoke to
in my
fly
body
away.
somewhere. Yeah. So
Because
it's very
you're
comfortable.
always flying away, so I'm like, I gotta smoke to fly away.
Yeah. So when I do gummies, it's like, because I can feel it in my body. And then, like, I don't know if I'm actually like in Egypt while I'm like, let's say in your car, or if I'm in your car in my body, and like it's very confusing for me. Like
Yeah.
and now it's all making sense because holy shit.
Yeah. I
Wow. This is fascinating stuff. And we have a meditation to do, and
We do. So yeah, I
we'll
have to
pick this
pee
up.
before our meditation. So we'll have to resume this either after meditation, depending how long our after meditation convo goes, or to be continued. But this was a very
Wow.
enlightening, impromptu conversation that, yeah,
And see, people, growing and learning happens every single day, as long
every minute.
every minute, every second, as long as you allow yourself to not judge yourself and just be the observer, right? Or the feeler.
Or the feeler.
And
Just don't absorb it all.
water puts out fire, right? But water is needed for the earth to grow, and air, which I'm also like I'm water and I mean I'm air and fire. When you bring air into water, you bring air into fire. What does it do? Like it blows, it gets bigger.
Floats and it flows and
Yeah.
water flows.
Yeah. And then earth just kind of grounds it all down. So me and you are stepping into all of our elements because we're very etheric beings.
Yes, we
But
are.
our human mortal body is the adjusting part right now, right?
Yep.
Wild.
Yep. To be continued.
Continued. Love you, people.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.